This week on the bonus round, Kickstarter. Is the honeymoon over? Shifting launch dates, broken promises. When are the good games coming? Is Kickstarter a new economy or a bubble about to burst?
And I think that there's going to be a lot of disappointment in 2013 about a lot of these projects that had such good press and such goodwill and such excitement around them.
Join original Xbox co-creator Seamus Blackley, GT's annoyed gamer Marcus Beer, and Weekend Confirm's Jeff Canada right now in the bonus round. Hey everyone, we're back here in the bonus round from I Am 8-Bit with Seamus, Marcus, and Jeff. This time we're going to talk about one of the biggest stories of 2012 that continues into 2013, and that is Kickstarter. Seamus, for a number of years, you were talking about alternate financing models for gaming outside of the publishing system. And that, at that point, it wasn't about crowdfunding, but it's amazing now that every day I feel like there are new Kickstarters launching for games, and they're raising a reasonable amount of money from a lot of fans around the world. 2013, Marcus, is this the year that the honeymoon's going to be over with Kickstarter?
I think we're already starting to see a little bit of Kickstarter fatigue, and I think basically, it's a great concept, and we've seen some great, some great titles. I mean, I backed the Shadowrun title myself, and I'm totally happy to see it come out eventually. But is this going to be the year that we start to see deadlines slip on the Kickstarter games from last year? The ones that, we're promising an alpha in January or a beta in the summer, and all of a sudden things start to slip and we need more money. And that is one of the areas of fatigue where I think people haven't really thought through what they're going to get back from their investment. The other one is what I like to call the Black Isle Studio cheeky bastard school of Kickstarter, where they obviously started a Kickstarter to fund their office and their company, so then they could start another Kickstarter. And that is, that's taking the piss. And I think that, unfortunately, that is, the fact that it totally bombed is a fantastic sign that people are way more savvy than perhaps we give them credit for. But I think that's the problem. You're going to get some failures this year, and I think that's going to burn people. Not everybody is going to be Tim Schafer, who's going to raise 3 or 4 times what he asked for. And God forbid. I mean, I love Tim, and he makes some amazing games. But as somebody who's worked PR or seen some of his games in the past, the guy is very relaxed about hitting deadlines. I mean, he's a fantastic game designer, but he couldn't hit a deadline.
Well, in the most recent documentary, I don't know if you watched it, they're already talking about how its deadline's probably going to slip a little bit past what they had originally told people. And I mean, that's the creative process. I mean, Seamus, in many ways, when you were an agent for these guys, you were dealing with this all the time, where creatives needed more time, and the publisher was the customer.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So it's your fault.
So when I represented Tim and Double Fine, they were always on schedule and everything. No. Look, the fact is that game development is an inexact science. And I think that, one important interesting metric to look at that I have no idea, if this is useful or not, if the data is even available, but is, as we see Kickstarter projects actually fail to deliver,
right.
How the game industry fares versus, other Kickstarter projects. And, we have a lot more maybe visibility in the game industry amongst gamers for these projects, and expectations are all higher. But, game development is, they always say a late game is only late until it ships, and a bad game is bad forever.
Right. There'll be games that may come out on time, but will suck, and customers will be like, "Why did I pay money?"
So getting something out on time just to make it out on time is never a good idea in games. And when you have, what Ed Freeze once called patient capital, which was his concept with the Microsoft game publishing business before some jerk came and destroyed it with Xbox. The idea is you have an investor who knows that an extra 6 months or something, and managing the PR around that and consumer expectations is a good idea because the game's going to be better. Yeah. With Kickstarter, you have a direct relationship with the customers, and that can go either way. You have a direct relationship with the consumers, and they're fans, and if you're honest with them about what's going on, maybe it works out really well. And if you're very careful about how you plan and you have sufficient money to actually get the game done, which I think Tim does, even if he goes past because they were oversubscribed, then it can be a positive thing because the customer gets more aware of what's going on. And the thing that we've noticed about consumers in this space, especially with mobile games and social games, is that even if you screw something up, you can actually get more appreciation, a better relationship with them just by being honest about what's not working. And and if Tim goes late and he's honest about it and he shows progress and he's clear with people about that, they're going to appreciate it and they may come back to fund his next thing. And I think that the best outcome for all of this would be, with these Kickstarter failures, instead of the concept failing, what happens is consumers become more savvy, as they have been, for instance, in the App Store with Who Makes Games, and they pick who to fund based on how they've done and what the relationships are like. And so maybe if Tim does well and delivers something good, even if it's late and people don't feel screwed, they'll fund him again. And your cheeky bastards are never going to see another dime.
Yeah.
And it being the internet, they're sort of forever cursed, which I think is a positive thing overall for the way that crowdfunding can work.
I love that optimistic outlook. I think that's great. I mean, I look at 2011 and 2012 as sort of the promise of Kickstarter, and 2013 and beyond is going to be the real reckoning to see if it's going to fall on its face or
For sure.
And I love the optimism. I want to feel the same way. I think it's interesting. Both of you used a word, investing, which I think is a really scary way to think about it from a consumer's point of view. And a lot of people think about it either as investing in a project or as like shopping in their store and like, oh, I want to buy that, I'm excited about that coming out, so I'll buy that. And what people really need to recognize is that you're donating. You're donating your money in hopes that they will use it wisely. And it's interesting, I'm a big fan of board games as well as digital games, and the board gaming space has been completely revolutionized by Kickstarter. I mean, almost every board gaming major publisher uses it, but it's such a different thing because it's so much lower stakes. You're looking at like $10,000 to make a board game. And I think that, as you said, video game development is such a hard thing to pin down, and I think that there's going to be a lot of disappointment in 2013 about a lot of these projects that had such good press and such goodwill and such excitement around them. And I'm really worried that it's going to damage the idea of crowdsourcing as a whole.
I've had similar thoughts myself, and the reason that I have an optimistic outlook is that I've watched similar trends in mobile games. I watched similar trends in social media, and people have figured out how to operate these tools and see what's behind it and not be so easily fooled. I think that we've seen, for instance, Zynga take a lot of heat for games not being good because people figured out which games were good and which weren't and started to demand good games. So you might be right. I just really hope that consumers take a little bit of time and that Kickstarter provides the tools, because one of the things Kickstarter is going to have to do is they're going to have to start really providing a clearer report card on people as to whether or not they failed products or not. And that might be a critical bacon-saving move for Kickstarter that transforms what could be a huge problem into a huge plus, which is, look, these people delivered, these people didn't. We're here just to help you make good decisions.
All right, hold that thought, guys. We'll be back in just a second.